Welcome everyone to Breaking Big Blue times Giants Nation Show collab. I'm Jordan Raanan on ESPN, ESPN.com. Giants reporter. And oh, baby. Now that was, you look at the Giants and okay, they've been bad in recent years, but you're looking at it now and you're like, man, they just find new ways to lose. And I'm talking unique. That yesterday was something I don't know we're ever going to see again. 33 points in the fourth quarter alone. And I'm going to get to what I saw live from the game because I think it's a little different perspective. And then what I heard from guys in the locker room, we're going to get to that in 1 minute. And then obviously we're going to get to the defensive side of things. I'll let people get in. Shane Bowen, part of it. He's under just massive fire from the fan base at this point. And I actually will say this. I think, and look, I'm not saying I think he's great defensive coordinator, but I think the disgust is a little misguided because when you're looking at it, and I'm going to start here. This is where I think everybody's kind of a little off base with this stuff. The Giants already did this once before, so they go and they have discussions about it. Shane Bowen said he wishes in retrospect afterwards he could be more aggressive, and Daboll said at times be more aggressive. But they're going over these scenarios beforehand. Okay. Now the play that we're talking about here is the Broncos get the ball. There is 34 seconds remaining, right? Okay. 34 seconds remaining. They're at their own 35. Got to keep them out of field goal range. Giants go with the 3-man rush. Now, think about this for a second, okay? The Giants just had several minutes to come up with a plan of what they're going to do and how they're going to attack this last drive. 31 seconds, right? There was a kickoff, and then the few seconds went off on the kickoff. So 31 seconds. Everyone like and subscribe. The Giants Nation Show says right there. Make sure you do that. So Denver has the ball. The first play, Giants come out, three defensive linemen. Obviously, Brian Burns and the players, they're furious about that. But whose decision is that ultimately? Okay? Shane Bowen's the play caller. But if you're the head coach, you're the overseer, right? So Brian Daboll is obviously involved, or he at least should be. So the way I look at it, and I don't know necessarily because I tried to get into it today, and Brian Daboll really wasn't going to answer anything about this whole situation. It's just one play. It's one play. Not one player, one player, one play. That's not what loses the game. And Dexter Lawrence and Abdul Carter on the sideline. But this is what you're working on during the week. You're having a plan. This is what we're going to do at the end of the game against this team and this an opponent, blah, 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 in these situations. And then the head coach, by the way, they just had probably like 3 to 5 minutes to figure what they're going to do on defense. Because if you think about it, Dart scores, but actually they call it down. It has to go get reviewed. So first it's getting reviewed. They see on the scoreboard, we all knew it was going to be overturned. So now you have time to prepare for the kickoff and the defensive side. If you're the head coach, I'm talking about Brian Daboll in this situation. And so he should be going up to Shane Bowen and talking about what they're going to do on defense. And then you have, a timeout, TV timeout. You have a kickoff, and then you finally get back on the field. So you're talking about like 3 to 5 minutes of real time. It's not like they're making a decision in the moment. No, they had 3 to 5 minutes to prepare for this. So the head coach, the overseer, to me, should be in charge of making sure it's the right thing. So the way I look at it is two things. Either Brian Daboll's complicit with the approach. He's the one who said to be conservative or approved it from Shane Bowen. Potentially it was his idea. Who knows, right? And look, I disagree with it. Let's just get that out right there now. You should be more aggressive there. We've already went through this. That's the whole point. That's why it's so frustrating. They're saying we already went over this with the Cowboys game. So either Brian Daboll's complicit or it was his idea, one or the other, because he should be on top of this in that 3 to 5 minutes of real time that it took before the defense was actually getting on the field. Or he's negligent. He's running all over the place. He's jumping up and down or, losing his cool. Who knows what he's doing on the sideline. And he didn't go talk to Brian Daboll. To Shane Bowen. So to me, I don't understand why the bullseye is on Shane Bowen for something that should be the head coach's responsibility. Brian Daboll is the one who should decide there what the approach should be, and then Shane Bowen's job should be to go execute it. And then afterwards, after that play, I'm watching Brian Daboll on the sideline. He's walking back and forth by Bowen, turning his head, and you could tell. I mean, the people by me started, with the binoculars looking closely at him. He's basically yelling at Shane Bowen the whole time then, from that point on, until the end of the game, until the game was over. And look, this isn't anything unusual. This was Wink Martindale's one of his complaints that he's yelling and screaming at everyone on the sideline all the time. And look, it still happens. He still is a big yeller and screamer, so it's not like completely unusual for him to yell at other people and other coaches on the sideline. But to me, ultimately, in this situation, like if we're talking about the game plan and a play call in the middle of a drive, yes, I'm totally saying that should be a Shane Bowen thing. But they had time. This was the first play. The head coach should be going up to him and having an approach for that drive. So to me, it's kind of crazy. This whole thing is kind of crazy. And look, the other ironic part is Shane Bowen had a good game plan. They shut him out for 3 quarters. And I'll say this. People are like, what happened to the Giants there? And yes, coaching cost them the game and these little moves and the attention to detail. We've been talking about this for months. It was so good that first year, and somehow it's so bad after that. And these are the little things that cost you games. And I have former players, by the way, former Giants players, texting me. I'm on text chains with a bunch of other former players, and they just like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing? Their game management is terrible. Daboll's game management is terrible. What are we doing here? And so that's a real thing. But the game plan was good enough. It was actually pretty good where they shut him out for 3 quarters. And then here's my reasoning of why they totally fell apart. Okay. They lose 2 players, key players. Let's be fair. Javon Holland, Paulson Adebo. They don't really have a replacement, another cornerback to put in. Deonte Banks is an abomination right now. And let me say this. He's as much abomination against the run as he is against the pass. 3 passes, 3 completions, 4 targets, 40 yards, touchdown. The touchdown was a tough one. It got tipped. I know some people say keep running, whatever. But I'm going to give him a little leeway on that one. But still, the jump ball, that's just too easy. He just never locates the ball. And he might be even worse against the run than he is in the pass, which is hard to do. So that's a disaster. But the Giants in general, defensively, I saw it during the game, and I want Bobby's opinion on this later. Bobby, write it down if you. I know you take notes back there and things you want to touch on. So you could see it when you're watching live because it's sometimes behind the play or whatever. Guys were constantly in the fourth quarter, like they were so winded, tapping out. Defensive linemen, they were rotating constantly because they just looked gassed. The Giants looked gassed. And look, they're playing in the altitude. It was a gazillion plays in the fourth quarter. They would probably be gassed anyway. But the other thing that I think about here, and this is another thing that goes back to Brian Daboll, they run an extremely light training camp and preparation program, in my opinion. The term that everyone uses in its natural is country club style. Like, that's the impression you get of a Brian Daboll program. And the fact that they're falling apart late in games, therefore, actually doesn't really surprise me. And I can see why. Sean Payton, who, by the way, I was talking to people about Sean Payton at the game before the game, people who cover the, I wanted to call them the Saints, but the Broncos, as Sean Payton runs a super hard program. He works the heck out of his team, and they're actually good late in games. And so that's something I think the Giants need to take a look at. Brian Daboll did take a little bit of a look at that this summer and said we need to work guys harder, but then you go out there and it looked generally the same. On the scale of, coaches who work players hard and coaches who are light and easy on players, he's definitely on the light and easy side. And then we're seeing the results late in games. Mental stamina, mental stability, all these things, we're seeing them fall apart. And I think that's a big thing that they need to look at of why the Giants lose a lot of these close games and fall apart and make key mistakes. That to me is problematic. Now, also problematic, whatever we want to say, whose fault it was of rushing 3 guys, clearly the players took don't like it, right? I mean, Brian Burns, that video of him said everything. He's basically saying, I can't believe, and I'm paraphrasing because you can't use half the words that he said. Bobby, we're watching our language here because I want to post this on Wednesday on Breaking Big Blue as well. So we kind of expand the audience and keep it growing. Remember, like, subscribe, always tell your friends. Come on, bring everybody here. Me and Bobby together. That's the A team. Is that when Brian Burns is saying this kind of stuff, and he's saying, hey, why are we doing this? I can't believe I'm going down and losing games like this. Especially after they did it in Dallas. You know that that's Brian Burns, by the way, most respected guy on the defensive side of the ball right now. My opinion, in that locker room. Brian Burns, number one. Dexter Lawrence, look at as the best player. The guy that I think most people will go and talk to, Brian Burns. So the fact that he's saying this, it means there's other guys in there thinking. Dexter Lawrence made it clear he wasn't happy with it either. Yeah, I asked him the question, what would you prefer? He had like a 15-second pause. You could see the wheels turning in his head. And he was just trying to say, what's the right thing for me to say here? And to paraphrase again, he said, let the coaches take care of that. That's the coaches' thing. But clearly, he wasn't a big fan of it. He wanted to be on the field, and they want to pressure. They don't want to sit back there and just let guys throw the ball. Now, at the same time, let's be fair. I mean, they had the running back in, so you have the 5 blockers, the running back, that's 6, right? And the quarterback, that's 7. So you have 4 receivers against 7 defensive backs. You shouldn't be allowing passes downfield. 7 on 4. Kind of crazy because Bobby Okereke wasn't. I know they said 8 in coverage. Bobby Okereke was in the middle waiting his responsibility was the running back, make sure he doesn't catch the ball and go for 30 yards. But 7 on 4, you should be able to cover that on top of everything else that we hate to call, the players hate to call. Still should be able to be successful 7 on 4. But total disaster. And now Burns and Dex aren't happy. They don't like the philosophy. That means that there's other guys in the locker room that don't like this philosophy. Now, I asked Bobby Okereke today, and he said they all support Shane Bowen. They're all behind him. They're all good. But you have to wonder, what's he supposed to say there in that situation? It's hard to believe. It's hard to believe. So there's problems there. Now, I'll go in the locker room this week and see how deep it is and if it's real. The ironic part is I haven't heard a ton. That's one thing I'll say. I haven't heard people dish on Shane Bowen to me. So I don't know. It's sure the crumbs and everything I see says it's a problem, but I haven't had anybody say anything directly to me. Now, one other thing I wanted to say. Through all this, Giants would have been in the playoff contention if they won. I had something written because you have to have something done by the time the game's over. I had something written that basically said, they have to be taken seriously as a playoff contender at least. Because you beat the Chargers, you beat the Eagles, and you go on the road and you beat the Denver Broncos, whose defense is really, really good. You could beat any team. And you won 3 of 4 since Dart took over. You're a playoff contender. Now they're 2-5. You're back to okay. It's gonna be a long season, which is fine. But the fact that Jaxson Dart was able, and I know some of it was up and down, the drive at the end of the game. In retrospect, when I went back and watched it, where they took the lead, kind of wasn't really impressive. They got really lucky on that drive, to be fair. It could have been a couple interceptions. They got some very favorable calls. But Jaxson Dart in general played really well in that kind of environment and did some big things. And for him to be able to do that in that environment, you should feel really good about where Jaxson Dart is. And also after the game, something I saw, Jaxson Dart was demoralized. He took it hard. He was really pissed. That interception was bad. We all know it. There's no defending it. He knows it. We know it. Daboll knows it. Everybody knows it. But he takes it hard. He wants to win. He was pissed off after the game. And you could see he was down. I heard him at one point, bitching and moaning to Russ about something. You could tell he was fired up. You could tell he was really demoralized. And Tyler Nubin, as he was going to go do his press conference before he left, Tyler Nubin, I saw, kind of pulled him aside and, huddled him up and whispered in his ear and said some things to him. And Tyler Nubin's a second-year player, but a good dude. And I said to him after, I went up to Nubin and I said, hey, what did you say to Jaxson? Like, why did you feel the need to do that? And he says, he took it super hard after the game. He was basically telling everybody on the team that he cost them the game. And they were like, no, man. And that's what he wanted to. That's why Newberg felt like the need to go talk to him and say, hey, no, we let you down. We let up 33 points in the fourth quarter defensively. We let you down. Don't be too hard on yourself. You did not lose us the game. But the fact that Jaxson Dart has that attitude and that approach, that's even more reason to love the guy. Right? You want that from guys. You don't want a guy who's going to go and post his highlights after this blew a 18-point fourth quarter lead, basically historically blown game. So I thought that was all positive. I like that about him. So, all right. I think that's all I got here in my initial rant. Bobby, bring you in. Hear what you got. What do you got off that?
Off that. So I have some stuff that prepared, and then let me hold on, timestamp. So I told you I was going to ask you before. I know the answer, and I know but I do want to ask for the listeners. Obviously, a lot of talk about they should fire Shane Bowen this morning, and I don't like Shane Bowen, and I do want to have the conversation of like scapegoating became a big word from this show a few weeks ago. I think the better word is shield more so than scapegoat.
I see where you're going there.
Because I don't like Shane Bowen. But was there any conversation, and maybe you might not know the answer of this, was there any conversation that Brian Daboll was a part of where anybody even just mentioned the firing of Shane Bowen? Again, I'm sure that's a conversation that only happens between a few people, and it probably doesn't get leaked if it's not a serious conversation. Do you have any information on that, yes or no?
At this point, I do not. Okay. It's early. Let's see where it goes by the end of the week and we hear stuff. But no, at this point, no.
Which makes me think they didn't really have any serious conversation. I know some people were expecting it today. I would have been shocked. I had no expectation because usually you hear the stuff leak out if they're like when Joe Judge fired Jason Garrett. I spent that entire morning just being like, when is the news going to come?
Right. No, but you knew there was Joe Judge never wanted to hire Jason Garrett. Like, we knew that from the start. Like, he wasn't shy about saying that. Like, he kind of got Jason Garrett shoved upon him, right? Like, we knew that. That was a known thing. This is a little different. Like, yes, this wasn't Daboll's first choice, but at the same time, this was his choice because that's what was available to him.
Right.
And, like, if he gets rid of him, that just looks bad on him, right? This was his guy that he hired. That's his second. He's going to be on his third defensive coordinator already in 4 years. And by the way, you know what the Giants' record it is since the start of 2023? 11-30.
Oh, wonderful.
Like, that's awful. Like, so you're going to go 11-30 and be like, if I just fired two defensive coordinators in the meantime? Like, that's a tough look. And by the way, they did also. I know it's hard because the fourth quarter was so bad. They did pitch a shutout for 3 quarters. They were playing really well. Really well.
I'll say this. I thought the Broncos were playing terribly. Like, terrible. It was like Bo Nix was inaccurate. They were dropping passes. They were throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage. And then the D linemen were doing a good job of getting
they made life really easy for the Giants. Like, they were just playing horizontal to the line of scrimmage and let the Giants run, like, sideline to sideline, which is kind of, they are quick up front. And I think that they played right into their hands. It's like, okay.
But I want to have this conversation because, again, the word scapegoat. I think the way it is a shield, and I'm not saying this is why Shane Bowen wasn't fired, and maybe he doesn't get fired, but this is why I don't think Brian Daboll's in a hurry to do it, because like Daniel Jones last year, I was on my podcast, people telling me I'm an idiot when I'm like, hey, I just don't think it's an upgrade to bench Daniel Jones. I understand doing it because of the injury guarantee. I just don't think we're upgrading at the position. All you guys saying anything can be better than this. I just don't think we're upgrading when we do that. But I was happy when it happened.
The reality is Daniel Jones is actually pretty good, and he's way better than the other options were.
And regardless of that, what I'm saying is when it happened, I was happy because, like, all right, now we can stop just talking about just Daniel Jones, and now let's talk about the entire job done by Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. And I think right now, if you say, oh, well, if Shane Bowen gets scapegoat, oh, well, Shane Bowen sucks. Yes, agree. But once Shane Bowen's gone, there's just no more fingers to be pointed at anybody. And then all the conversation goes from firing Shane Bowen to firing you. It happened with the Bears last year, right? They're like, we need to fire Matt Eberflus. Nobody was talking about firing Ryan Poles. They fired Matt Eberflus, and then a week later, Bears fans are talking about firing Ryan Poles. So I think I'm not saying this is why Shane Bowen's still here, but the reality is he's not a scapegoat, but he is a shield for Brian Daboll because people talk less individually about Brian Daboll than they do Shane Bowen.
I do think that plays into it, but minusculely. I think also maybe more than that is what are the options if they get rid of Shane Bowen? There's nobody who's like super proven as a defensive coordinator that you're going to bring in. We saw, I'll bring the Jets as an example. When Saleh left last year and Ulbrich went in and he was the interim coach, look, their defense turned to crap. Like, I'm not sure there's this great built-in option there with the Giants. Remember, Andre Patterson, who people want to be the one, or at least one of the options to be the defensive coordinator, they didn't even give him an interview, Bobby. They didn't even give him a token interview to be the defensive coordinator. So that just kind of tells
Henderson,
me
they did, which is funny. They fired him.
Right.
Well,
it was his fault. It was his fault. The secondary's bad, right?
Yeah. But let me add,
I think that's maybe more of a factor than what you said. I think what you said, people keep it in the background. I see someone here says Antonio Pierce. Antonio Pierce is not going to come here in the middle of the season. He's not going to do that. Telling you, I've talked to people over a period of time. That's not something he's going to do.
It's just too outside the box for them too. Let me ask you this, Brian. I went to go look for it on TV and I couldn't find a great shot of it. You guys talked about Brian Daboll yelling at Shane Bowen. You brought it up in the press conference. You were there. What was it? When was it? And have you heard anything else about that?
So after the first play of that drive, where they give up the big play, like you could see Daboll going over to Bowen and turning. And then he kept walking back and forth. You kept seeing him turn his head back. And, his mouth was moving the whole time. Obviously, we're like, way up. People are using binoculars to see at that point. But I'm like, I think he's yelling at Bowen. And so people are looking like, oh, yeah, he's yelling at Bowen. And so he was like, Bowen was trying to get away from him and go to the next play, I think. And like Daboll just kept walking back and forth right near him and turning. You could see him turn his head. And then it kind of continued basically until the game ended.
And that's where we talk about, like, everyone focuses on one play. And Doug Analytics tweeted out, like, the Giants rushers percentage, right? They rush 2%, one play, right? And I'm like, everyone looks at that. My bigger issue with Shane Bowen is the 80% of rushing 4, right? When you're playing against a Bo Nix-led team, especially when you have a lead and you have the ability to step on their throats, right? But that's where it's like Brian Daboll gets the blame, right, for that. Because you mentioned all of he has all that time in between to talk about the plan. They do these stuffs during the week, and if they're not, that's even more of a black eye on Brian Daboll. So, like, what is he yelling about at that point? Because you have control of that. And we know for a fact, because against the Eagles, after the win, when they had the cover zero blitz against Jalen Hurts and had the Cordell Flott interception, he says, yeah, I was on Bowen to get aggressive there. So, had no problem taking some credit for, those aggressive play calls. So, like, he has to answer for that. I think Shane Bowen's a bad defensive coordinator. I hate his identity. I have basically since I started reviewing his film in Tennessee. But Brian Daboll has to own this freaking team. He's a head coach. He is not just a quarterback draft picker. He's not an offensive game planner. He's a head coach.
I agree. I mean, that's what I said. That's why I said that I think the outrage is misguided. Like, it should be on the head coach there. Like, this is something that's just give them a directive and say the approach that you want to do. Like, we can't sit here and pretend like, oh, they went with 3 rushers and that's all on Shane Bowen. That has to be on the head coach. And if it's not, it's a super indictment on the head coach, because he should say, hey, I want to be aggressive here before the drive. Just give him an idea. You don't have to be the guy who's doing the exact play call. Give him the exact play call, but there should be something. Now, we don't know what was said. I don't know if we're going to know exactly what was said. I'm certainly going to ask around. I got disarmed a little bit and got derailed in the press conference. These Zooms kind of suck on Monday. I really wanted to ask
Daboll was
Daboll.
giving absolutely nothing.
He disarmed me by that, but I already had asked 2 questions about it. I really wanted to ask him if he was all right with the rushing 3, and I didn't get to it.
Well, here's your answer. Yeah, it's we just
one
gotta
play
better.
doesn't decide a game like that, because that's
Yep.
what he said to me the first 2 times. So he disarmed me to the point where I didn't even get to that question.
Yeah, he just flat out won't answer it sometimes. It's not even like a non-answer. He just like flat out won't even answer the question. So that's where I'm at with like the whole Daboll thing. So he yelled at him. What were the other things? Let's see. So I did the Daboll scout. All right. So I think there has been, let me timestamp 25:40. I think there has been an issue of belief in this defensive coordinator dating back to last year. I mentioned it on our podcast today with Grump, that people coming up to us at the Senior Bowl and mentioning that specific. Like, these players just don't have any buy-in with Shane Bowen. I never left the Senior Bowl more depressed than last year, where everyone was just telling me bad stories the entire time. Brian Burns clearly doesn't, the drop 8 stuff. Dexter Lawrence doesn't. His press conferences have made that clear. So, like, how much is that spreading? Is there any players or people that have told you, off the record that, like, oh gosh, we don't like this, that aren't the star players who get the social media clips of their quotes after the game?
I really haven't had a lot of it. That's why I'm like, look, I see all the clues and I see everything that tells me about it that says, okay, there's something's definitely wrong here, and I truly believe that. But the defensive side, they've been really good about not saying anything about it. And like and there's guys on the defensive side that have complained to me about Shane and Daboll in the past. But I haven't really gotten guys to say much about their non-belief in Shane Bowen, which I found kind of weird. I do believe it's there, but they've been good about not saying anything on that one. So I have to say, on that one, I haven't gotten that.
Okay.
Now, there's other people around the team and other coaches around the league that are like, yeah, they don't like Shane Bowen there. Like, not even necessarily player-wise. I'm talking from the front, like people that are in the front of the front office and, the head of the organization.
Okay.
And we kind of saw that with John Mara last year with his comments after the season. Kind of was like, yeah, we weren't completely happy here.
Yeah. I don't think anybody was, but they just dealt with what they dealt with, I guess. So we talked a lot about defense and Bowen. If there's anything else, the chat should remind us of something I didn't hit on with that. So some other questions I want to hit you with. The kicker situation.
Yeah.
How have they fumbled this, continue to fumble this bad, right? Like, you could talk about like putting Deonte Banks in on 3rd down or having lack of depth at whatever position. But like, the way they've handled this is like moronic, right? Like, the whole Graham Gano offseason, not bringing in any real competition. And I said on the podcast last night too, where it's like, oh, well, Jude McAtamney won the kicker competition. Well, like, his win of that competition sure did not give you guys any faith, because you weren't kicking any field goals. He missed an extra point last week. Like, they had no faith in him with him winning that. Why was it, if he won that against Younghoe Koo, why wasn't that like let's go bring in another kicker because this isn't working? Like, how did they think they were going to get through a season with a kicker they didn't trust to kick 50 yards?
Yeah. It's interesting because I agree with you. If you didn't trust him to really kick field goals, which has proven to be the case because they've passed what
I don't mean to interrupt you. The missed extra points are distracting us from the fact that they had no faith in him before the missed extra points.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I do think they thought, okay, Koo would help us out here, and then they got Koo in the building. Like, oh boy, he might have the yips. We might have something. We might have to work on something here. Now I'm basing this off, a couple kickoffs where he basically shanks the ball, which, by the way, I think I saw it was this week. I saw it again this week, and you're like, yeah, okay, maybe that's why he's not kicking. Now we don't see them kick field goals, but I guess they figured we'll give McAtamney a chance here, and obviously it backfired. Sometimes with these kickers, it's weird. Guys come out of nowhere and they end up being good, but the plan is where you have, again, this regime, it's the plan that makes you nauseous and sick, right? It's like you have you're going with an old kicker, which we can argue with is a good, bad idea in the first place. I think most of us thought it probably was anyway. Cost you money. But at least if you have an old kicker, you better have a decent contingency plan, right? Go out and sign an undrafted free agent that you want to work with and you want to build up. Like, get somebody else in here that you kind of like, right? Not, okay, here's a guy who's international pathway program guy that obviously they don't fully trust.
Yeah, he's literally not here if it's not for a roster exemption. He's not here, right? They've never brought in another kicker, even just to have a leg in camp, that's another thing is they don't push Graham. Like, Graham Gano got to the season healthy, cool. Yeah, because he didn't kick at all in practice.
We didn't see
even
see
when they
kick.
do field goals, he doesn't even kick them.
Did we see him kick once? I don't think so, right?
Maybe. And I don't want to get into it with the chat, but Lucky says Graham Gano would have beaten any competition they were able to bring in. He was healthy and making kicks prior to the season. Well, number one, they weren't letting him kick in camp, so maybe he would have got injured. It's stupid as hell to cry about not bringing in competition. I don't know. Maybe if you use one of your 2 7th-round picks on Ryan Fitzgerald, who's killing it with the Panthers, just one bleep at 31-0 mark. Let your guy know that.
Yeah, I got it.
it's if he's in there, even if Graham knows a slight, oh gosh, we could save $3 million. This guy's been injured and bad, right? This guy's killing it in the preseason. So it's not stupid about it. It would have been smart. We spent all offseason. I do not talk about special teams a ton in the offseason. I spent the whole draft month being like, they should draft Ryan Fitzgerald out of FSU. They had 2 7th-round picks. He went undrafted. You could have made that your priority and for your UDFA class to go get him. And they just ignored it. It was a stupid plan. And then when Graham Gano getting injured, which was extremely foreseeable, right? He's been injured, old, and bad the last 2 years. Their plan somehow was even dumber afterwards.
Agreed. I mean, like, that's the problem. Again, it's not, we can't just sit here and look at the results and be like, oh, the results suck, but the process was great. The process stunk too.
Yeah,
like
the process was worse than the results.
Yeah,
almost.
Same like the process with the backup quarterback a few years back. The same with the process with Josh Azudu at tackle. Like, we were like, what? This is the plan? Oh, wait, now we're going to go get Chris Hubbard off the practice squad. Is that his name?
Yep.
Of San Francisco? Yeah. Is he in the NFL anymore?
I don't know. He was a good run blocker, though.
You always say that. You love Chris Hubbard's run blocking.
Hey, Tyrone Tracy doesn't have that little spurt he has. But, again, I just think it's incompetence the way they've handled the kicker situation.
It's hard to argue. Look at the results. This is the 3rd year in a row the Giants have been basically a mess at kicker. It should be one of the easiest positions to fill.
Other question. This is a little late in the game, and maybe this is something we can hit next week.
Okay.
Malik Nabers is tweeting in games, questioning coaching decisions. Today, tweets about Tiki Barber. Anybody texting you about, like, oh gosh, here we go with this?
No, the only thing I could say about Malik Nabers is, he's a Brian Daboll guy. Like, before Jaxson Dart, there was Malik Nabers. So he could do no wrong.
Right.
And it was something that a guy in a locker room actually told me at one point. It's like, they better get this under control or this will be a problem at some point, because he kind of has free reign to do whatever he wants. So pretty sure Malik Nabers, just does whatever he wants. Although one of the things you did see that I kind of found funny, Bobby, but just goes to show you, like, what this regime is worried about. He said something about how they make him take tweets down all the time.
Oh, yeah. Wait, like, say it again. Say that last sentence again.
He said, like, something about how he was responding to another player on another team, I think, and he said something like, "Oh, well, the Giants, I would do it. I'd be saying stuff too, but the Giants make me take half my tweets."
Oh, yeah, Malik tweeted that. Yeah.
And to me, those are the things that the regime is worried about. What I think is just a waste of time. Like, worry about the important things. Don't waste your time on this other BS. Like, that stuff is not. That doesn't help you win. Worry about winning. Don't worry about what guys say. Don't worry about if he's giving his opinion on things. Big deal. You deal with it. They let them speak. They're grown men. If they want to talk trash on something, let them talk trash. Who cares?
This is a little late breaking. Tyler Lockett released by the Titans after his off of his request. Obviously, there could be some. Is there any interest there from the Giants that you've heard initially?
I'll look into it, but I haven't. I haven't actually looked into that yet. But I saw that he was released, and I was going to look into it probably by tomorrow. But he does play outside. The only thing is he is somewhat of a slot guy. He's played in the past in the slot.
He's played a ton. He's been a true outside inside.
The last
guy,
couple of years, right?
At 5'10", he's 33 years old.
Yeah,
he hasn't done much for the Titans this year. I could look up his snap share.
Yeah, I don't think it's a terrible move for the Giants though. But again, with Tyler Lockett, and Mike Niddle says it here, would think Lockett would want to go to a contender. Like if he has other options, does he want to come to the Giants?
Yeah, I mean, he gets some playing time. He did play. He's only played slot this year. Last year,
he has played outside.
Last year he played. Last year,
his
usual 66% outside, 33% inside. So,
but I mean that part of the inside, sure he can play outside, but that inside, okay. Well, Wandale is actually their best weapon right now, right? He's actually playing very well.
But Lockett,
so it does take away a little bit of his versatility and value, but I do think that would be one that would make sense. A veteran maybe can give you something. Just a little stability, won't cost you anything. Like that's the kind of move that makes sense to me. Yeah. All these other bigger moves don't make a ton of sense to me to give up assets for big guys right now when they're 2-5, right? Also, Jalen Waddle, from everything I heard, is not available. So that's I know everyone thinks that's going to happen. I just don't know if they really want to do it. Olave, and Michael Fachetta says here, we need Olave or Waddle. Olave to me would be a lot more realistic because I don't think Waddle, unless everyone gets blown out there in Dallas, they're not going to get rid of him. They have no intention to get rid of him. He has a contract. He has a reasonable contract. He's someone that they can move forward with and help build around. Like he's one of their only guys you would want to keep and build around. The other guy, everyone else, it would make sense to trade. So,
are they in on wide receiver like big game hunting? I know Diana Rossini reported they're not. I'm not an insider, but I heard differently. Like are they still in on that? What did the game result have any impact on that? Like
I heard they have made calls. I don't necessarily know that. I don't think they're extremely motivated to go big game hunting and give up a lot. Like it would have to be the perfect guy, which I think Waddle might be the one that falls into that category. I'm not so sure. I get the vibe that Olave probably isn't. Like it's, if there's a big game guy, it probably would be Waddle. But like I said, the Giants could want Waddle all they want, but you want to give up a first rounder, Bobby? Like, because they don't want to get rid of him. So you have to overpay to get him. You want to give up a first rounder for Jalen Waddle right now?
That's what I heard is they want a first rounder, which they'd obviously not get from the Giants.
But I'm saying if they have no intention of trading him, that's probably what it would take to shake him free. Now, maybe at the end of the day, they get blown out. It's a second rounder. Okay, maybe. But it's going to still be costly.
Right.
Regardless.
Other thing, you mentioned former players. Were those from better teams or guys that were on the team in the last under Brian Daboll and Joe Shane?
No, I'm talking back to Super Bowl era teams.
Okay. It's always funny how those guys talk on post-game shows and then in private they're ripping the team.
Well, they see it.
And I don't know who you're talking about, but I've gotten that from them.
It's just such a different era. When you talk, Tom Coughlin was a guy. He had he was on top of everything. He was making sure that dotted every I, crossed every T. And everything that's going wrong now is everything that he wouldn't do.
Shay makes a great point. Jordan, it's sad to say we should never draft the Maryland guy again. They're saying the people from that go to Maryland are dumb.
I'm trying to think who else have we had from Maryland? Occasional guy here or there.
Wasn't Stephon Diggs was a Maryland guy? No, there was DJ Moore was a Maryland.
No, guy. I know, but I'm saying with the Giants. Yes, Stephon Diggs is a Maryland guy.
I can't remember. There hasn't been anybody since I've started covering the team drafted from Maryland. I don't think so. I'm going to look at it.
There was another player from Maryland in the past couple of years. I'm drawing a blank on who it was, but
can. There's I think you could find that on Pro Football. Come on.
Yeah, Darrell Scott. Someone brought up, but that was a while ago. Anyway, it's not important.
It is important because I am interested in stuff like this. Give me 10 more seconds. Stall for 10 more seconds while I scroll down to Maryland for Giants draft picks.
All right, yeah. I mean, look, Giants have actually had a lot of Duke guys. That's what's coming to my head. Victor Dumukaj, the most recent Duke guy.
Deion Jackson.
He's from the Maryland area, but didn't go to Maryland.
Yeah, Clarence Jones was
Deion
one.
Jackson.
Darrell Scott. Michael. No, he was Massachusetts. So I mean, none of these names I really recognize, unless you're a big Dick Nolan guy from 1962.
Yeah. Big Dick guy.
Big Dick Nolan.
Dick Nolan.
So let's see if I have any other questions for you after I go to the chat. I think I've out of mine. I morphed mine with my ghostwriter.
Okay.
I'm
curious what you think about the training camp stuff.
Oh yeah.
And if you were to go back to the beginning, probably the first 5 minutes, the Giants were gassed in that game. So my thing is that the Daboll runs generally a light training camp, a light work program in general. Always days off, more days off than is necessary.
They don't do any
early. Yeah,
every
practice ends early, conditioning minimal. And now we're seeing the Giants late in games make mistakes fall apart. I think that is part of it.
Yeah, I won't blame it all on that, but yeah, that is an issue, and especially with guys coming off injury.
That's just a small piece, add to the puzzle.
And they gave Dexter Lawrence all of training camp off, right, because of his elbow.
And that's what. So that takes it. There was a question here that I highlighted, and it said, "Is Dexter Lawrence hurt? He looks like a shell of his dominant self this season, and he also looks out of shape." And I think that goes back to what you just said. We all saw it at the beginning of the summer. He was injured this offseason. He didn't look like he came in and, he wasn't ready to play yet. He was rehabbing in the offseason, at least part or most of the offseason. And so, yeah, I don't think he was in great playing shape yet. And then it took him a little while to get going. And then he got sick. He got an illness that lasted for a couple of weeks, the last few weeks. So I think I think you put all that together and it's contributed. And look, I actually brought this up to Andre Patterson, and he went off basically saying, if you think Dex isn't just as dominant as he always was, you're crazy. He's still playing at the same level. Go ask anybody we play. They're double teaming him every play, but they were double teaming him every play, and he was still making splash plays left and right the last couple of years.
Yeah, that's BS. He's playing really good, right? He's still a really good player. He's not as dominant as he's been the last 3 years.
There's no metric out there that says he's anywhere near as dominant as he was the last couple of years. Now, the last couple of years he was off the chart. Even pressures, tackles, everything.
Yep.
It hasn't been the same.
It's not just sack numbers. And if you can't get him to start getting a bunch of pressures every game, then that's on your scheme. So two more things that are a little more positive that I want to get from Research Rick. One, let's talk Jaxson Dart. We kind of haven't talked Jaxson Dart at all. What are your thoughts on him? I mean, he's really the only thing that brings life to this team right now.
Yeah, I brought it up. I'm super impressed. I think that you go leave this game and in the end, the season won't be as fun. They're not in the. We can't sit here and pretend like they're playoff competitors now, legit contenders. But he gives you a chance every time they step on the field, which is exciting. And he gives you a chance because in the future, it looks like he could be a really good quarterback. Now, in the end, his ultimate success, and I said this last week, is going to be decided on how he learns to read defenses and stand in the pocket and be able to make some of those big throws. You're not going to be able to run around and create as much as he's doing now consistently. He could be a good quarterback, but if we want him to be, a top quarterback, you got to be able to do that at a high level, be able to stand there, read defenses, throw in the pocket. But he's gotten better every week. And to do what he did in Denver, I left there super impressed.
Yeah. He put up 30 plus on, number 2 defense in the NFL. A credit to the offensive line too. I think they haven't went underrated, but they've played a big part in this too. Mm-hmm. They played a hell of a game. I was shocked at how good the interior group did against Denver.
And even a hell of a game, the pocket was still constantly pushing and crumbling. Because that defense is good, Bobby. They are fast, and it just you can even see it when you're there. It's constantly closing on Jaxson Dart.
Yeah,
It
but
was
Dart's
constant. And
bringing
he took
life.
some big hits, by the way, in the
Yeah,
first half. Big hits.
yeah. Dart's bringing life. He's making real deal, like, oh my gosh, wow plays. He doesn't look overwhelmed. Um, I also am not one of these people that is just ignoring the fourth quarter. I'm like, oh, well, they put up 30 points on the Broncos. Like, yeah, but it's a 4-quarter game, right? We can't ignore the fourth quarter by the defense. Obviously, that was like the interception. He's a rookie quarterback. He's going to have interceptions. My biggest worries about him are, let's get that deep ball accuracy figured out, right? It's setting your feet. It's fixable. You can see him do it when he's been clean at times. He's thrown it deep at a higher rate than anybody in the NFL, but he's bottom 5 in completion rate. Just got to get that figured out.
I think he was 0 for 4 on 40-plus air yard throws going into the game, and then he had his first one that he completed was Bellinger, 42 air yards.
Yeah, but again, that's fixable. He's not going to be Josh Allen or anything, but that's fixable. The other one is, and this is where, like, I would love to get the Brian Daboll, is like the interceptions not being these terrible interceptions against the Saints gets overlooked. Like, he was still throwing the ball into just quadruple coverage and chucking and praying, and he did that versus Denver. Like, I know we're talking about, oh, well, they've had a touchdown drive. I wasn't impressed by that. Somebody has to get a hold of him, because this goes back to Ole Miss, and say in these games like this, they play quarterback. Play quarterback. Obviously, if you get under a minute to go and you're at your 20, yeah, maybe chuck up a couple. But you just got to play quarterback. Play quarterback, and don't just turn it into chuck and pray, because that's going to lead to bad results more than good, even though it did work out in this game due to the penalties. So, but like
they got a little fortunate on that drive. Let's be honest. He took a sack. They're in 4th and 19. I'm not sure either of those were penalties, personally.
Oh, they were bad penalty calls, and he had 2 dropped interceptions.
Yeah, they basically collided with each other. He just threw the ball up. It should have been an easy interception. The 2 guys at the goal line.
But here's the reality: since he's entered, they're 12th in scoring at 25.2 points per game. When have the Giants averaged 25 points per game in the last decade?
He gives them a chance every time he's on the field that something big and good can happen. The tight ends are relevant again, which I think, it was super relevant the other day. It's been part of their philosophy to work around their wide receivers. So I don't know. He's even more athletic than I thought. Like, we knew he was athletic, but I think he's even more athletic than I thought. Like, you don't get to see that in full in training camp. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, you don't get to see it in training camp. Yeah, he's making a lot of plays with his legs. He's making big, real deal plays. He's keeping plays alive. He's been money on third down. Like, and again, this is all with literally no outside receiver presence. Lil Jordan Humphrey and Jalen Hyatt had 0 catches in this game. Like, they have no outside wide receiver presence. And credit to Wan'Dale Robinson for stepping up in this game and last week too. So he's been a joy to watch. Obviously, there's going to be rookie mistakes, but I always hate this.
I'd rather give up, by the way, just to Lockett for a second. I'd rather give up nothing and sign Lockett than give up like a 4th or 5th round pick for like a mediocre veteran anyway, by the way, if that's an option.
Myers is a different case. I think if you can get like a day 3 pick for Jacoby Myers, I think that's a little bit different.
I don't know, because the thing that worries me about that one in particular, and I haven't gotten the vibe the Giants were super interested, he's not signed.
I know, but it's a day 3 pick.
You just, for what? The rest of this season? That seems, this team is not in a position where they should just be throwing away picks.
I understand that, but I've just gotten a little less pick huggy over the years. But I wanted to make this last point on Dart is anytime a rookie does bad, oh, he's a rookie. Here's a rookie. It's like, okay, well, bad players are usually bad rookies too, right? So like whenever there's a rookie that's just bad, like Evan Neal, oh, he's a rookie. You're giving up on a rookie? It's like, I don't know. This looks bad. He looks unbalanced. I don't know if he's an NFL guy. You don't see the signs there. But if you get a player who makes progress or is good and then has bad moments, that's where he's a rookie, right? Andrew Thomas started off really bad. By the end of his rookie season, I'm like, I'm happy with this player. I'm happy with this rookie season. There was progression to where at the end of the year, he was one of the better players on the team. His best game of the year was the last game of the season against DeMarcus Lawrence against the Cowboys. I'm going forward. That's where it is with Dart. He's going to have mistakes. You can't pretend the mistakes aren't there. And if they become a trend, they have to be things that have to be fixed. But like he is doing so much more positive the negative that like I'm actually excited about him. So.
Yeah, I tweeted like, forget all this other stuff. Like the fact that he did what he did in that environment. That place was shaking, Bobby, before the game. Like it's like got that old school feel. It's like that's a great atmosphere for a home field advantage. So for him to do what he did for 3 quarters, very, very impressed. And I just think, they're in good shape with the quarterback. Big picture, that's all that really matters with this season. Probably saves you from wasting some assets by losing that game. So
I just want to be made clear that Jaxson Dart is independent of Brian Daboll.
Yeah. Well, let's rip through the questions. And Michael Champlin here says, "Ugh, I'm not over yesterday. I'm sick." But to make you not sick, he's wearing the Jaxson Dart. His Jaxson Dart avatar right there. It's not him, but it's Jaxson.
This is Jaxson Dart. Actually, it's his burner account.
Oh, hey, what's up, Jax? Oh yeah, big Taylor Swift fan, Jaxson Dart. Put it on his Instagram. That's what I talked about this week with him.
Nice.
Real deep conversation. But no, that's what you should be help you get over that. Yeah, the loss is terrible, but in the end, what's the season about? The season, the number one priority is about developing Jaxson Dart, and if he's good, he gives you a chance in the future. Still should feel pretty good about that. Unmute yourself.
Michael Champlin asks, what roster moves do you think are coming this week? So is it? I'll expand on that. Is kicker? Are they simply just going to go to Young Wei Koo, or are they going to bring another kicker? And it is very funny that the Packers kicker who's been 7 for 7, was one of their workouts when they.
Yeah, I think they'll probably work out kickers this week as well. That's kind of the vibe I've gotten, that they'll work out kickers, but Young Wei Koo is likely next in line, and so we'll see what happens there. Also, something to keep an eye on: Brian Burns was in a boot the other day. We'll see how he comes out of it. It's possible he's banged up. I don't know that yet, to what degree. And also remember Javon Holland and Paulson Adebo. So the cornerback position, they meet if Paulson Adebo can't play.
I can't even think of that Deontay Banks for a full game. It's crazy how just bad and dumb he is.
I think going to Art Green is something that's not that far off.
I don't either. He literally went in the game. He went in the game. And they literally just started giving up points every 7 plays after that, and giving up it was every I was victory lapping. I was like, people are like, oh, you celebrate too early. I was like, I don't know. This hasn't happened 1,600 times in a row. Sue me for expecting the Giants to finish that thing off. But when I was celebrating, people were like, you're going to lose too early. Deontay Banks is in the game, which is, again, a funny reply. And it was literally the truth. Like, they gave up 33 points as soon as Deontay Banks entered.
I haven't gotten the impression that Graham Gano is about to return just yet. Demetrius Flanagan-Foles looks like he's getting closer. He's been doing some stuff on his side field, so they'll be a little healthier at linebacker moving forward here. Chauncey Golston was out this week. That's not a long-term thing either. He has a good chance to be back this week. Slayton, maybe maybe a chance to be back this week as well. He's not that far off. So
okay.
I think they're getting a little bit healthier moving forward, except that they lost some key players the other day.
Hey, they did beat the Eagles coming off of a really bad loss once this year. A lot of super chats about the kicker, which we all talked about, but thank you very much, Kyle. I fully agree with you on that.
Yeah. I mean, they should bring in a kicker, by the way, from the outside, and just at least keep him on the practice squad for 2 weeks and try and develop him in the young guy and see if you think he's better than the guys they have.
With this super chat, Cruzen talks about Deontay Banks can't cover and he takes the worst angles when trying to tackle. I don't think he really has a desire to tackle that much. It's crazy, right? And it showed up a little bit at Maryland, where I was like, he's strong, he can tackle good when he's got the ability, but he's not a good run defender. That's the most I think sometimes people who played high school and some college or whatever, like, well, when we practice this, the league is totally different. But there is a little bit of truth where somebody in the chat probably played corner in high school, and he's like, dude, how do you keep jumping inside on these outside runs? It's been a nonstop issue for years now with Deontay Banks.
Yeah, I mean, some guys, it just doesn't seem to click. I think that's the only way to explain it. And I think he might be that guy. He's just not clicking with him. His natural instinct when he gets out there, it just brain fart. It just doesn't. Everything you worked on all week just goes away.
Yeah. He did have two twins this week, too. Formula Red said, even if Daboll wanted Bowen gone, is it his call or does he have to ask permission? So,
I think that's
you've
one
been through this with Jason Garrett. How does this work?
Yeah, I think this is one that probably would have to run through people above him. I think Joe Shane would definitely give his advice too. I don't know if he's the ultimate decision maker, but I think ownership, you kind of have to run that by them if you want to switch your defensive coordinator in the middle of the season and basically give up on a guy you just hired 2 years ago to replace the guy who you couldn't get along with. So it would be a tough one to sell. So I do think there is some sort of permission there.
Which is
John Maris wasn't at this game on the road, but he's still around the building pretty regularly, and so he's involved and has conversations. And maybe he's not, he gives the coach the option of whether he wants to do it or not, but he certainly gives his input.
Yeah, I'm as anti-mayor as anybody, but if you're going to fire a coordinator in season, you at least have to talk to everyone about that.
Yeah, that's a conversation you have to have with the owner. You don't just show up and fire him and then tell the owner afterwards.
Yeah.
Can't. That's not something. I don't think any of them would. I don't know the setup most organizations. With the Giants, that wouldn't happen.
Do guys advocate for a receiver team building boat trip? That actually is not a bad idea.
Yeah, the bye is in December. So the bye is in December. So they could do it in December at the bye week. I mean, do you want them to do it like in the middle of the week, like on a Monday again?
Yeah, come down to Brevard County, Florida. We'll do a whole show of it. We'll do Breaking Big Blue on a boat. You know how I'm addicted to doing the show in random places. Like we can definitely get that done.
There we go. I mean, I don't know if you think that would be their preference.
I just was gonna make a joke, and I'm not. I was gonna joke about like picking up Wandale and like I'm gonna throw you over. Does not firing Bowen lose the locker room for some sort of degree? Again, it's obviously very fresh, but like. And I keep on referencing the Jason Garrett firing because that was the last in-season firing we had. But like, stuff started coming out quick, right? I remember having breakfast with Zach Rosenblatt in Tampa that morning, and he's like, "I got an article coming out about Galladay hating Jason Garrett." Like, and it's like, all right, so all this stuff is coming out now. Like, has it again? Burns, Dax, like. Do you see that stuff start to leak out if they have another defensive performance like that or play bad against the Eagles?
The three guys are Dex, Bobby, and Burns, and I don't think they're guys that are going to let that out.
Very strategic putting Bobby on the Zoom calls today, who's like the perfect guy to come and like toe the line.
Yeah, I mean he's good. He knows exactly what to say and not to say anything.
This is actually a great question by the Trash Man. Who's the next person to have a kid? Like, it became a joke in training camp where I was like,
well, I know the answer.
He had a baby.
I know the answer.
And everyone's like, oh, I didn't know he was pregnant. That became a joke. And
do you want to guess?
It just happened every year. So I'm gonna. I don't think JMS is pregnant. Actually, you know what? JMS, John Michael Smith is pregnant.
Not that I know of. I know Flott is coming up.
Flott's pregnant.
Yeah.
It could use a little bit of weight. Flott's been
he told me early December. Art Green maybe too? I don't know. No, maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. I know Flott. Flott and his wife are going to have a baby coming up.
That's why he's been so good. He's getting some pre-dad strength. And he has been legitimately good.
Yeah, he's been one of the best surprises this year for the Giants. He's the one guy that's kind of stepped up and developed into that role. I mean, it is year 4.
Yeah. Well, he was also the youngest player in the draft class.
They also jerked him around and played him in all the, inside, outside, can never get settled.
And if you remember last year's, he was the first player where I'm like, I'm just not paying attention to your training camp anymore. Because every year he would have the worst training camp. I'm not talking about like, oh, he had a bad play. Like,
yeah,
the 2023 training camp, because you remember they were bombs away, just throwing it down the field, and Jones was missing a lot. Flott was getting burned deep like 5 times per practice. I'm like, this is like they went out and signed Adoree because of it. And I said going into this training camp, Cordell Flott, I am not paying attention to any negative training camp practices for you anymore.
And look, he stepped it up. He's been great this year. He's been really good.
Dart has. I want to discount. Dart has the ball on the 2 with 30 seconds left, plus the timeout. No timeouts for Denver. Why not milk the clock with the kneel to 15 seconds and then go for the win? This team, despite their red zone successes the last couple of weeks,
you can't do that.
They couldn't get it in, and they had one timeout. So if you try and pound it in, like you
got to go try and score. This is I think they were going against the number 1 red zone defense in the NFL. Like, you can't mess around.
Agreed.
Yes, you can let the clock run down, but you can't kneel on the ball. That's a no. You need every chance to try to get in the end zone and get the win. Got to take the lead first. How about this? Don't give up a score with 31 seconds left. It shouldn't be that hard. You're guarding 7 on 4. Even regardless, we all hate the call. You're guarding 7 guys on 4. Don't let him throw it 30 yards downfield. It's ridiculous. That's exactly what you have 7 guys back there to guard. It's crazy.
Yeah. Just like, hey, just don't do that. Like, it's not that hard. And that play, Drew, like the lack of attention to detail and focus, like Bo Nix threw an inaccurate pass there, right? And
I don't even think it was to Mims.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. Like, it was to Cortland Sutton on the dig. The play was Mims kind of pulled up, and then Drew Phillips was like, "Oh, he pulled up. Play must be over." And then, bam, hits him right in the chest, and then Drew Phillips is there. And that's not to defend the play call, because if Bo Nix just waits a beat longer and throws an accurate pass, he would have hit Cortland Sutton in man coverage against Deontay
But it's
Banks.
because Drew Phillips and Nubin didn't have eyes on the ball. Their back was basically to the ball. Like, what are we doing?
They weren't looking.
7 guys back there.
Nubin was not looking at the route concept. He was only looking at the quarterback and standing where he was designed to stand, and not actually playing the route concept.
And the guy kind of just ran past him.
Yep.
And so I mean, we sit here and we could sit here and the play call, I'd much rather get pressure. But come on, 31 seconds left. You have 7 guys back there. You should be able to guard 4 receivers. It shouldn't be that hard.
No. Now, again, the point is, like, you can't just let Bo Nix, who struggles when he's under pressure with accuracy, and I guess he did throw an inaccurate pass, but, like, you can't just let him sit there and just die. And again, so you get man coverage against our corners, like, one of them is going to win, and it's just about throwing the ball at the right time. There's some other chats I want to get to, but I've actually, you know what? Let's do those. And I want to ask you about Denver as a city. James, this year's past have proven to me that Daboll does not have the necessary qualities to be a top head coach in the NFL. Regardless of what happens with Dart, what team would even hire him if fired? I think he would get an OC job somewhere.
As a head coach, no way.
Yeah,
no way. He's 11-30, and he's had a lot of things around him.
Yeah, it's like
the ironic part is when he was hired, I had a assistant GM who I'm friendly with another team say at one point when they had a coaching opening that they looked into Daboll and they just thought he was too volatile, that they didn't actually end up interviewing him. And, like, now you're like, okay, that kind of makes sense, right? Now that we've seen him, like, I could see that being something that's not a selling point for other teams.
Which is crazy, as comprehensive of a GM search they did. Their head coach one was they'd only interviewed one offensive coach.
Well, once they hired Joe Shane, Brian Daboll was going to be his coach.
Which
that's kind of how these things work. Like, you knew
it's not, though. You go and look at it. There's very rare where you get package deals from a place. I remember watching those playoffs. It's like, all right, who are we getting? We get
no. You don't understand.
Adam Peters and Mike McDaniel.
They're almost all package deals. You just don't realize they're not. That doesn't mean they're from the same place. But these guys know each other, and they're basically go beforehand. And there's one, a GM gets hired, and he's only hiring 1 or 2 guys. Basically, he already has in his head what he wants to hire.
Who is the worst first round pick, Eli Apple or Banks? I want to see if we get some other chats in here besides the ones that.
Banks is trending towards it right now. I mean, Eli Apple actually stayed in the league. He was in the league earlier this year for a little bit, at least. I mean, he stayed in the league a while. That was 2015 to now. It was almost 10 years. Can we guarantee Deontay Banks makes 10 years in the NFL?
Dude, Banks is so talented that, like, even this week, it was like 1 week of not having him play. I'm like, I don't even know if I'd trade him. He's so talented. He'd be one of these guys that goes somewhere and else succeeds. And then he gets put on the field, and you're like, nope, why did I think that? Which is proof that the best thing for your PR is to just not play if you're because it's just 1 week of not playing had me feeling a little more positive Banks, and then he comes on and then the Broncos scored 33 points in the fourth quarter.
You got anything else?
I wanted to ask you. Oh, so this is 2 more questions.
Okay.
You wrote a story about Russell Wilson this week. Can you kind of talk about that? The dynamic, obviously, a question of him was QB2 was last week. Can you kind of share a little bit about the Russell Wilson thing?
Yeah, when we were sitting here talking about it, and a lot of people were like, why is he the backup? Why is he the backup? So I went and asked Daboll. The press conference actually was super short. I had to squeeze it in at the end. I don't know if you noticed that. So it's kind of like I had to blurt it out, and it wasn't really going to get a response. And kind of like, why? Because he's our backup quarterback. Walks up the podium. And then I went up to Russ and said, hey, just want to talk about how you handled the last couple weeks and what it's been like. And I asked him about basically going in and everybody wanting Dart back in and all that shenanigans. He's just like, I got to be prepared. He compared it to being sort of like a middle reliever. It's definitely different because he's never really done this in his career, right? He was a starter in Pittsburgh. He got benched in Denver coming in, and he was a starter his whole career in Seattle. He had started every single game until he came in those 2 games recently. So just come in for like a play or two and then go back to the bench. He found interesting. Said there was miscommunication.
That's his thing, go-to for everything. Miscommunicate.
Or he didn't use the word miscommunication, but he said we're not on the same page, basically, him and Jalen Hyatt on that one play. But he said he still wants to play, and his thing is he says, hey, look what I did against Dallas. I know I still have it. Like that's what he tells himself. So to say I know I can still play in the league. So he, and I think the Giants don't want to rock the boat. That's the vibe that I've gotten by switching him to the third stringer.
Which is silly because Jaxson Dart's gonna get hurt, and you're gonna have to either jump over him or play whatever. I don't feel like even doing that this week.
You brought it up.
There's a couple other super chats we're good.
He did say he wants to still play, but you also have to remember he doesn't necessarily want to leave. He has a family. They have a life. They're in New York. They moved to, I think it's Brooklyn, whatever. He's made a home here for himself and his family.
Everyone's got to retire at some point, Russ. How's the city of Denver?
You're making $10 million. I wouldn't retire.
No, I'm not saying retire mid-year, but I don't think he's going to be making $10 million next year.
True. Denver, cool city. I actually went hiking, checked out Red Rocks. You know what Red Rocks is? You ever been out there?
No, I've never been out there.
Red Rocks is like they have concerts. It's this huge amphitheater. It has these gigantic rocks. It's in the mountain. Really cool place. I went to hike, checked out the mountains there. You can see the snow at the top of the mountaintop. I think I was at like 10,000 feet, something like that, which is pretty high.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it was fun. It's a fun city. Downtown's okay. Nothing special, but, we went to the ballpark area, watched some sports, had some dinner. Not a bad place. I like it. I liked it. Very different way of living than the Northeast up here. Much more out in the open. Everybody's outdoorsy, doing stuff outdoors.
Or saying really mean things in my mentions.
Yeah, Broncos fans are crazy. I was talking to the Broncos reporter about that too. He was saying Giants fans are equally crazy though. He was, Troy Ranke wrote, like, what do you call him, Arm and Hammer?
Well, Troy Ranke's an idiot. I don't know if you're friendly with him, but he's just kind of dumb. No offense, you don't have to comment on that if you're a Troy Ranke guy, but
he's not.
Whoever lost was going to get their mentions filled with whatever it was, and I just couldn't believe they blew it. So I was like, hey, I would, everything bad thing you want to say about me, go ahead, Denver. The only thing you can't say is that Nick Bonito did anything in this game. Andrew Thomas owned him, and now my goals for the rest of the year are Jaxson Dart continue to develop and get Andrew Thomas in the Pro Bowl. I messaged him today. I said, let's do an interview at the Pro Bowl. So I was thinking about asking him for the bye week, but I was like, you know what? I'm getting you in the Pro Bowl this year. Let's do an interview in Orlando.
How many games did he miss? 2?
Yeah, if you think about it, he only missed 2 because he played in that Chiefs game.
So he missed like 2.5, really, but yeah.
Yeah, so I'm I'm getting
Yeah,
him
if
in
he
Pro Bowl
plays
this
if
year.
he plays 14 games or 14 or 15 games, he should definitely make the Pro Bowl.
And the Giants sucking makes that hard, especially with offensive line, because on the Pro Bowl voting, there's no stats for them to put them at the top of the list.
Yeah,
Where receivers, they just
he's
have
number
them.
one in pass block win rate at the moment. I looked this morning.
It's been unbelievable.
Yeah, he was number one. Let me see. I have it up right here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you tweeted out.
96.4%. He's number one. Mike McGlinchey, number two at 96.3. So he just moved past him this week by getting 100. Illuminor also had 100 this week, by the way.
Dude, Illuminor, another, like, this was a nice test for him to, like, hey, like, if we want to resign you, like, these are the games we need you to do your thing. And he
usually doesn't grade out great in our metric either, the ESPN pass block win rate. For some reason. They give him some crazy ones. I look every once in a while. I'm like, that's a loss for him. I don't know. I'm like, they run some like twist on the inside and give it to him, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not a perfect stat for sure.
Sebastian's Dart's last quarter really worried me. I get he's a rookie, but those missed throws and hero ball mentality really worries me. And I'm on the same. That was one of my worries coming out of Ole Miss, but you got to hope that he figures some of that stuff out. Like he has a gamer mentality to. Again, it's not like he doesn't need to reinvent himself and fix your footwork. It's just like, no, he doesn't need to fix his footwork with the deep passes, but like think about Josh Allen and his rookie year, and I hate to do that forever, but like it can't be just unfixable that at the end of games you just start chucking and praying like that. I think it's something fixable thing.
I think it's something we need to file away, but it shouldn't be something that has you super worried. Like,
no,
give it some time and see. It should be something he could improve on as he gets more comfortable on the field and understands like what you can and can't do in this league.
Yeah, and especially if he's playing well through 3 quarters. Like again, it's just like, hey, just keep doing that. Don't let being down 10 or whatever make you go into just throw it mode. Is little Jordan Humphrey going to wear his Eagles socks Sunday? I'm missing the reference here.
I don't get it either. Does he wear Eagles socks?
Oh, they're calling you Lil Jordan, and you're saying you're an Eagles fan.
I'm an Eagles fan. Okay, that's what I thought it meant originally, but then I was like, wait, does Lil Jordan Humphrey like have an Eagles connection? Does he actually wear Eagles socks underneath?
No, I would know.
Like a superstition? I was like, I never heard that
because I have a Google Doc of everybody's revenge games.
Let's see. What do I have? Eagles in my office. Do I have nothing? Even though I work there?
It's all in your heart, buddy.
I don't have anything in here.
I
got a lot of bobbleheads, but do I not have any? Oh, I have a Michael Vick one from back in the day. That's it.
Michael Vick back in the day.
I got a Kyle Korver bobblehead that has real hair on it. It's amazing.
Dude, I will never forgive the Nets for trading Kyle Korver for money. Like they drafted him. It was like that was an NBA Finals team back to back. That's what they needed. They needed shooting to go with Jason Kidd. And they drafted him, and I'm like, yes, this is exactly what we needed. Then we traded him to the Sixers of all team who we were competing for division titles at that point.
And by the way, he turned into a pretty good player, like a solid player, exactly what you thought he was going to be. He was very useful, shot the ball great, and great guy. He was a super cool guy.
He would have been a perfect fit with the Jason Kidd Nets teams. A perfect fit.
But it's a bobblehead with like real hair, though. So it's crazy. It's unique.
God, it kills me. He was a starter as a rookie for the Sixers. That was like that was the tail end of Allen Iverson. Andre Iguodala just came to the team. So
that's when I was working in Philadelphia. I got nothing. Eagles in here though. Nothing. Sorry.
All right. Well, why don't you close this out?
All right. You're listening to Breaking Big Blue Giants Nation Show. I got it right 2 weeks in a row, Bobby. We're on fire here. Like, subscribe, tell your friends. I'm Jordan Raanan. He's Bobby Skinner. See you next time.